Jonah from Bucksnort, Tennessee, real place. He said, I just saw the Super Bowl, had its highest ratings ever, but the college football playoff was down compared to last year. Is there anything college football could replicate from the NFL to help itself out? No. Full stop. That's not the end of the segment, though. But that's my short answer. No. Really, there may be one thing with a caveat, but I'll get the one thing out of the way. I'd be lying to you, Jonah, if I said that I didn't wish college football would take a page or two out of the NFL's book when it comes to structuring a calendar. The college football calendar is so out of whack. The college football calendar is just the stupidest thing about the sport right now. But it's the way it is because there are several hurdles, some of them legal, some of them administrative, in the way in college that aren't in the way in the NFL. Oh, also, the players in the NFL don't go to class, and believe it or not, most of the players in college do. So you have a lot of things you have to work around where you can't build your idealistic calendar, you have to build a realistic calendar. So I do get that, but I still think we could do work on the college football calendar. However, outside of that, I want to draw back to the spirit of Jonah's question there. Yeah, the Super Bowl did a huge number. Yeah, the college football playoff national title number dipped a little bit from last year. I don't care. I would humbly suggest that you shouldn't care, Jonah. And I'm going to offer a pretty radical viewpoint on this. And by radical, I sarcastically am referring to the fact that this is not a big deal. So, Super Bowl does a huge number. Super Bowl does bonkers ratings. College football playoff national title number slightly down. Several reasons for both, but I would tell you I couldn't care less about how the NFL compares to college football. I would suggest to you that college football is not the NFL and shouldn't worry about trying to be the NFL. I mean this on a multitude of fronts. TV ratings are just one of them. That product, the NFL product, is engineered to be as palatable for as wide a viewing audience as possible. There is no entity that does it better and more surgically than the National Football League. I watch NFL. I love college football. I sometimes watch the NFL. That's my personal taste. There may be people watching the show right now who dabble in college football, but they love the NFL. I really don't care. It's obvious there are more people who are diehard NFL viewers than college football viewers. But I don't look at that and say, boy, what do we need to do to catch up to the NFL? Nothing. You don't have anything to catch up to. College football is one of one. Therefore, the comparative for college football shouldn't be how do we relate to the NFL? It should be how are we related to the best that college football can be? And the best that college football can be, believe it or not, does not always coincide with putting the product on air that temporarily gives you the highest ratings. A, because those are indicative of decisions that were made well upstream, meaning the current television viewership numbers that you're getting are oftentimes a byproduct of decisions that were made 5 or 10 years prior, not decisions that were made 5 or 10 weeks prior. And secondly, it's not for everybody. You know, at some point, you reach this critical tipping point where for the sake of bigger ratings, you sacrifice a lot of what's great about your game. I don't know if you've noticed, but look to your left and right. It happens all around you every year in college football. Now, thankfully, that sounds very negative. Thankfully, there's a ton of layers on that onion. And so we haven't gotten anywhere close to ruining the onion, but there's more nuance in college football. It's tougher to understand college football. That's okay. And if it means there's a dude over here and a girl over here who's going to watch the NFL that really don't care about college football, that's also okay. If it means the Super Bowl's rating is going to dwarf the national title game's rating, that's okay. We play this game in smaller towns. It's a little bit different, a chore, to get a ton of people, to get 9 figures worth of people to care about your game when your biggest brands are in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, instead of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. There are more leagues in this sport of ours. There are more teams. Some of them are in Boise, Idaho. Like, who in the world? Half the folks who watch the Super Bowl cannot find these college towns on a map. That's okay. We can. We love it. If they want to watch, that's fine, but not at the expense of bending our sport to fit their viewership interests. There are shorter careers in college football. If you believe that this sport is at its best when it is star-driven, you don't have a ton of stars in college football. The stars are the head coaches. I've always believed that. I will always believe that. NIL will never change that. We just had Travis Hunter come through. Huge name. One of the bigger names to come through college football in a long time. He's already gone. 3 years, gone. Tim Tebow, 4-year career, gone. Urban Meyer's around forever. Nick Saban's around forever. Mac Brown around forever. Kirby Smart around forever relative to the player. So the head coaches are the stars. College football has struggled to market that concept sometimes. But when we go on the road in the spring, you notice who we sit down with. We don't sit down with players. We sit down with coaches. The players play the game. We talk about them plenty in the fall. But if I want you to get to know someone, I went down to Tulane this past week. I sat down with John Summerall for an hour. I would highly recommend you go listen to that conversation, by the way. It's on the YouTube channel right now, because I think the sport is at its best when it is properly presenting profiles of its head coaches. That's different in the NFL. Some people can't name half the head coaches in the NFL. You name players. It's okay that it's different. Game day environment matters way more in college football than it does the NFL. To get someone to fully understand that, guess what? You have to have taken them to a game. If you haven't taken someone to Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee, Florida, when the renovation is complete, and had them experience not just what it's like when Clemson's in there and it's a critical 3rd and 7 midway through the third quarter, yeah, that's insane, but it's also a great 4.5 hours before kickoff. Now, you can talk to me about the tailgating scene in the NFL, but it's normally surrounded by concrete. And all due respect, that's not tailgating. What they do in Athens, Georgia, is tailgating. Like what they do in Columbus, Ohio, and Ann Arbor, Michigan, that's tailgating. The scene in State College, Pennsylvania, where it's just an ocean of tailgating tents as far as the eye can see, mostly from Academy Sports and Outdoors, and it's winding, hilly terrain, a lot of vegetation, a lot of greenery in all shapes, forms, and consumption sizes. I don't want to cast aspersions on you folks at Penn State, but I mean, let's be real now. The tailgating scene is an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing. All these things are different in college as it relates to the NFL. It's okay. And if our group of things versus the NFL's group of things means that we're going to have, relatively speaking, a smaller viewership audience, that's okay. I've got some of my favorite steakhouses in Nashville. They don't try and be Outback. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with Outback. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with these steakhouses, but they know what makes them good, and they could absolutely make changes to appeal to a wider swath of the demographic. They don't. They don't. And could probably make more money doing it, but they don't. Why don't they? Because they understand what their product is, they understand their clientele, and then they continue to present from atmosphere to product on the table to please their clientele. And if you can grow it 1 or 2% in a fiscal year, that's wonderful. But growing it temporarily at a 10 to 15% clip will long-term mean you probably shave off your P1s, your diehards, and there's going to be some consultant group that tells you that's worth it. They're wrong. Long-term, it's not worth it. It's never worth it. And countless entities have figured that out. In the annals of American entertainment, hopefully college football is not the next, and I don't think it's going to be. It's okay. But one angle that I would love to see college football learn a lesson on is how to structure a calendar. I will admit that. The NFL understands that. College football, a little ways behind. But then again, I haven't even been elected college football commissioner yet. Roger Goodell's got such a head start. So, we'll see. One thing at a time, one change at a time.